When The Big Valley premiered in 1965, it wasn't just another Western riding the wave of frontier dramas. It arrived with weight, elegance, and something rare for its time, a powerful woman at the center of it all. The Barkley family ranch in California's San Joaquin Valley wasn't merely a setting. It was a kingdom, a battleground, a sanctuary, and inside that house stood Victoria Barkley, widowed, wealthy, commanding, raising her children in a world that was constantly trying to challenge their authority. For 4 seasons, audiences watched land disputes escalate into gunfights, watched courtroom arguments turn into moral reckonings, watched family loyalty tested by betrayal and outside threats. The show ran from 1965 to 1969, but its impact stretched far beyond those years. And as the decades passed, the actors who gave life to the Barkleys slowly faced their final chapters. Some left too soon. Some battled long illnesses. Some are still here, carrying the memories forward. This is the full story of how the cast of The Big Valley died, and how their real lives reflected triumph, struggle, and endurance long after the cameras stopped rolling. Barbara Stanwyck, the steel behind the matriarch. At the heart of the series stood Barbara Stanwyck, already a legend before she ever stepped onto the Barkley Ranch. By 1965, Stanwyck had lived several lifetimes in Hollywood. She had starred in classics like Double Indemnity and Stella Dallas. She had survived the ruthless studio system. She had worked with titans of cinema. Yet she approached television, still considered a step down from film at the time, with absolute professionalism. On screen, Victoria Barkley was controlled fire. She rarely shouted. She rarely faltered. But when she spoke, everyone listened. Her authority came not from volume, but from presence. Off-screen, Stanwyck was famously disciplined. She arrived early. She demanded respect. Younger cast members often admitted they were intimidated at first, but many, including Lee Majors, later described her as protective and deeply supportive once she decided you had earned your place. After the show ended in 1969, Stanwyck did not retire. She continued working steadily through the 1970s and 1980s, winning multiple Emmy Awards for television roles. She remained sharp, articulate, and fiercely independent well into her 70s. But her health gradually declined in the late 1980s. She suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a condition that made breathing increasingly difficult. Hospital visits became more frequent. The once commanding voice grew softer. On January 20th, 1990, Barbara Stanwyck died of congestive heart failure at the age of 82. Her death symbolized more than the loss of an actress. It marked the fading of one of the last true giants of classic Hollywood, a woman who had commanded screens for over 5 decades. Victoria Barkley may have been fictional, but Stanwyck's strength was entirely real. Richard Long, a fragile heart behind a strong character. Jared Barkley, the eldest son, was a lawyer, thoughtful, composed, often the voice of reason. He preferred strategy over violence, negotiation over impulse. He was portrayed by Richard Long. Long brought quiet dignity to the role. While Nick exploded with emotion and he brooded in silence, Jared calculated. He was a stabilizer, the bridge between worlds. But what audiences didn't know was that Richard Long had been living with a serious heart condition since childhood. As a boy, he suffered from rheumatic fever, a disease that permanently damaged his heart valves. Doctors warned him early in life that his heart would always be compromised, that physical exertion and stress could shorten his lifespan. Yet he pursued acting relentlessly. He worked constantly, in film, in television, in guest appearances. He rarely complained publicly about his condition. But privately, his health struggles were severe. In the early 1970s, he began experiencing major heart attacks. Hospitalizations became frequent. Friends noticed he tired more easily. On December 21st, 1974, Richard Long died of heart failure at just 47 years old. 47. For fans, it was devastating. Peter Breck, the passionate fire. If Jared was intellect, Nick Barkley was fire. Nick charged into conflict without hesitation. He argued loudly, loved fiercely, fought immediately. He was emotion in motion, and that intensity was brought to life by Peter Breck. Breck's performance gave the show energy. His confrontations with Stanwyck were electric. His loyalty to Heath's character created some of the show's most powerful emotional arcs. After The Big Valley, Brett continued acting in television and film. Eventually, he shifted toward teaching acting, mentoring young performers. He often spoke fondly of the series and the camaraderie of the cast. But in his later years, a devastating illness emerged. Dementia. Memory began slipping away. Lines, faces, conversations, the very tools of his craft, slowly faded. For an actor, there's perhaps no crueler disease. His wife Diane cared for him through the decline, often speaking about the heartbreaking progression of the illness. On February 6, 2012, Peter Brett passed away at 82. Though his final years were marked by memory loss, fans still remember him as Nick, passionate, stubborn, loyal beyond measure. Lee Majors, the outsider who endured. Heath Barkley entered the story as an outsider, the illegitimate son, uncertain of his place within the family. The role launched the career of Lee Majors. Heath's character arc resonated deeply with viewers. His struggle for acceptance, his quiet strength, his loyalty despite rejection. It created one of the show's most compelling emotional cores. After the series ended, Lee Majors' career exploded. He became a household name with The $6 Million Man and later The Fall Guy. He transitioned from Western drama to action icon. Unlike many of his co-stars, Lee Majors is still alive. Now in his mid-80s, he occasionally reflects on the show that gave him his start. He often credits Barbara Stanwyck for mentoring him early in his career. He remains one of the last living major cast members, a living bridge between generations of television. Linda Evans, from Ranch to Dynasty. Audra Barkley brought youth, grace, and emotional depth to the family dynamic. She was often caught between romance and resilience. She was portrayed by Linda Evans. After The Big Valley, Evans achieved even greater fame with the hit 1980s series Dynasty, becoming one of the most recognizable television stars of that era. Unlike some of her co-stars, Linda Evans is still alive today. She stepped back from acting in later years, choosing a quieter lifestyle focus on personal well-being. Her career represents one of the most successful post-Western transitions of the cast. Napoleon Whiting, the loyal Silas. Silas, the Barkley family's devoted houseman, was portrayed by Napoleon Whiting. Whiting brought warmth and quiet dignity to the role. In an era when television rarely offered nuanced roles to black actors in westerns, Silas stood out as a respected and trusted presence within the Barkley household. Napoleon Whiting passed away in 1984 at age 73. His role remains an important part of the show's legacy. The valley grows quiet. Over time, heart disease claimed some. Illness claimed others. Age claimed the rest. The ranch house may no longer echo with new dialogue, but it remains frozen in time on screen. Turn on an episode today. Victoria still stands firm. Nick still argues. Jared still reasons. He still seeks belonging. Audra still dreams.